Welcome to It Begins With Us, the podcast about domestic violence abuse. It is our mission to help anyone in a domestic violence situation. We started this podcast
as a safe space for survivors to tell their stories.
Completely confidential.
We can disguise your voice.
You can be off camera, and we're here to listen. Let's get started. Welcome back. It Begins With Us, listeners. Today we have a special guest, Lorana.
Hello.
Hi. And then we have Sandy and
Yeah.
Angelica
Hi.
and Maria. So tell us a little bit of what you do, Lorana.
So I do rapid eye therapy and mindset coaching. And my real focus is on women and helping them really move into the light that they were born with. Mm-hmm. Many of us have had experiences that kind of took that light from us. And often it's taken just a little bit at a time. You don't even realize that you're losing it until you wake up one day and it's gone and there's nothing left of you. Mm-hmm. And so I really love to help women regain that strength and their own power so that they can, be the owners of their own life again.
And so they can shine again.
So they can shine.
Yeah.
And then when they shine, they help their families around them shine and their children shine and friends. It's
Right. Mm-hmm.
like I have a little light and then I light your light and light your light and it just spreads. Mm-hmm. So, and it helps. I like to think of it as we're all connected, and as one person rises, it raises everyone else up with it.
Yeah.
So we all improve together.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that this ties in a lot with what we're trying to do here too, with domestic violence survivors.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe it's a very common for domestic violence survivors that go through that, where we feel like we just don't shine anymore, that we are just shut down.
Like our self-worth is just so low.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be physical abuse at all.
Right.
I felt like when I married, I'd already graduated from college and was quite successful. And I got married, and I knew that if anybody ever hit me, I'd be gone.
Right.
But what my husband did was just took me a little piece at a time. Mm-hmm. Until there was really nothing left of me. I was just this hollow shell,
like a puppet almost at that point.
Just going through the motions and trying to protect my children from his caustic, acidic attitude. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like I was a cleaning lady mopping up after him so that nobody else got infected by his anger.
Yeah.
And so when I finally realized where I was and was able to step out of that, then I started searching to rebuild myself and to regain a wholeness about myself. Mm-hmm. And in that process is when I found rapid eye therapy. And I found it really healing to let go of that trauma that I had experienced. Mm-hmm. And I really feel it for other women.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to leave that situation. And I feel like oftentimes that partner even convinces them that they can't do it on their own.
Yep.
They want to keep you trapped there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important that we help women find their strength.
Yeah.
And realize they can do it on their own.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing with my second husband. I think my first husband was very abusive physically, and every single way that you can think of. My second husband was mentally and emotionally. So I completely agree with what you just said, like what you went through. You can see it in pictures. It's very clear in pictures. When we started, when I moved in together with him, my face was shining and
eyes lit up.
Yeah, exactly. And then within 10 years, I looked old. I've been divorced for 4 years and I look younger than I did 10 years ago when I was still married to him.
Yeah.
So people have told me wow, that's a picture from you 10 years ago. You look so much younger and more beautiful, more bright now than you did before when you were married.
Oh yeah. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And, after I'd been divorced for a couple of years, my mom said, it's so great to have the old Lorana back. Like I had been lost in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's really easy to lose ourselves. And especially, I feel like women are naturally caregivers.
Yes.
And they want to make everything better around them and make everyone feel comfortable and happy. And especially if they have children, then that really...
That's our goal.
Yeah, it makes it even more complicated because we really want them to have a wonderful life.
Right.
And so we get caught in this trap.
Right. Yeah.
So I really think the program you have is great, and I have ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, they could do this.
We love ideas.
Yes, that would be awesome.
We love ideas.
So what exactly is rapid eye therapy? Like, how does it work?
Okay, so rapid eye therapy is based on the model of the way your brain stores information. So we have our frontal lobe where we put all today, everything that happens today. And then when we're asleep, in our REM sleep, and you may have noticed, for me, when I noticed it was when I had my little children asleep. And you could see that their eyeball was moving around under their eyelid. That's REM sleep. So the reason your eyeball moves like that is because it's taking things out of that frontal lobe and storing them in your long-term filing cabinet in the back of your brain. But it doesn't store things logically like you would think of a filing cabinet. It stores things kind of how they feel to you.
Based on feeling.
And so when that same feeling comes up again, you draw that out. So a lot of trauma is stored in the same kind of drawer in that filing cabinet. So in rapid eye therapy, I use an eye frequency device that I move in front of your eye in all the positions that your eye would go in when you're in REM sleep, and we release the negative emotion from it. So it's like you're awake, so you know what's happening, and we're able to open that file cabinet and pull the negative emotion off of that. So it's not like you forget what happened to you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the same charge. So when something comes up that's similar, it doesn't trigger you like it did before.
Okay.
So it's a great way to release that stuff from trauma, those emotions from trauma. And then we put in positives after that. And then the other part of the rapid eye therapy is mindset coaching. Really taught, because we'll go out and create the same thing again because we're such creatures of habit. So the other part is really learning to think about things differently and perceive things differently, and pay attention to how we're feeling about situations, really get in touch with ourselves and move into that more positive light so that we can go out and create.
Yeah. I actually was talking about this with my brother this morning. He played his playlist that he used to play when we first started his restaurant. And he said, I hadn't played this type of music in a really long time. It's been months because every time I would play it in the beginning, like I was so stressed and trying to figure out how to be a business owner that like when I would hear those songs, he's like, it would put me in a stress mode. He's like, but now I'm not as stressed, and now I'm playing it for the first time in months, and he's like, it feels different. And so it's crazy, like music brings you back, So,
music, a smell is another really strong one because it goes straight, your olfactory gland goes straight to your brain. So if you smell the same scent, it takes you right back to that certain spot in your life.
I think one time that happened to me, the first time I ever had a panic attack, after I left my first husband, there was a show playing in the background, and it was a show that he used to watch. And I wouldn't pay attention to the show, but just hearing that in the background, and it had been maybe 6 months after I left him, and I just hearing it, and I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was having a heart attack. I'd never had a panic attack before. And I got taken to the ER, and they're like, you're having a panic attack. Like, what could have set you off, And we went through, everything that was going on when it happened. And it's like, well, this show was happening in the background, that my brother was watching. And like, that's the same show my ex would watch when we were fighting. And so it's crazy how your brain does that.
Yeah, the voices, the tone of the voice and the music, probably background music in that show just triggered that stress response. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. Our bodies are so creative and just
and we have to remember that we're all one being. Do you know what I mean? That physical reaction, that panic feeling, or sweating, or heart racing, that's connected to everything in your neurology that's happening as well. So we're all one being, and we have to really take care of all the areas of our life. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And where could do you do this therapy for everybody or just women?
Oh, anybody can. I mean, it's great for everybody. And I've worked with children.
Okay.
And with adults and, men and women.
Okay.
I feel like I'm particularly attracted to working with women because of my own experience. Right. So I feel a real connection to that.
Yeah.
But I've worked with all kinds of people. And I can work in person with a client, or I can do it on Zoom.
Okay.
So, which makes it sometimes easier to do it
more
in your
available.
own home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you're located here in Idaho Falls?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, just jump from here, not too far from here.
Okay, so. That's awesome. How often does someone have to do this therapy? Is it like once a month? Is it one time? Or do you have to go to like several appointments?
So what I like to start with is 5 sessions.
Okay.
And do them, if we can, once a week. When we do a clearing, you're going to have a couple of days that things still continue to move. So then you can kind of settle back in, and then we'll do another session.
Okay.
So what we like to start with, the first session, we teach you a lot of self-help things that you can do when you're triggered, just to take care of yourself. And then the next session, we do a birth clearing. When you're born is the first time that your psyche took on physical feelings, being pushed through the birth canal, and then you land in this alien place where it's colder and it's loud, and then there's the feeling like you're being abused when they're trying to get you to breathe, or they're examining you, so there's a lot of, and then there's the emotion of it's not so much today when most people know if they're having a boy or a girl, but like when I was born, my dad really wanted a boy, and he didn't know till I popped out,
right.
That I was a girl. And I could feel that disappointment, that I wasn't this boy. And so there's just things like that you take on. Or if you wanted, some children are born and they immediately feel like they weren't wanted. Like an unplanned pregnancy kind of thing. Yeah. So we do a birth clearing first, because everything could be going back to that. I mean, an example would be, I'm stuck in the birth canal, I'm stuck in this marriage, I'm stuck with this old car, I'm stuck in this job. You just keep recreating stuck through your whole life from that birth experience. So that's where we like to start with that foundation. And then we do some inner child work, where we go back to experiences you had as a child, and we release the emotions connected to those.
Okay.
And then another session that we do, they're called defense sets, but they're times that you felt violated or powerless. Anyway, there's 5 defense sets. I can't think of them off the top of my head right now, but we do that.
Okay. And
then the last one is kind of a repatterning of the way your brain works. So it's, your nerves, your neurology, set up a pathway, and it's like a path in the mountains that people keep hiking the same path and it gets worn down. But by doing this spiritual repatterning, we can change those neural pathways so that you start walking this different path rather than the same one. You know, because you keep doing what you've been doing, you can keep getting what you've been getting, right? Yeah. So let's move to this new pathway.
Yeah.
So those are the 5 sessions we like to start with, and then I have hundreds of things we can work on if the client feels like they want to have more things. Yeah. You know, focus on something or
right.
How long are the sessions?
The first session, because it's an intake, I usually plan on 90 minutes.
Okay.
And then after that, about an hour each session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have homework, you know, because we're working on this mindset.
Yeah.
So there's going to be stuff that we want you to work on every single day to really change the way you think and move forward with your life.
Okay.
So
would you say this is like a type of counseling?
Yeah. I was kind of thinking we're putting like pen to paper. With homework.
Well, I guess more therapy than counseling. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a counselor by degree.
Yeah.
And I can make you a suggestion. The thing that's really amazing about Rapid Eye is that you don't have to relive the situation. Mm-hmm. You know, like if you go to talk therapy counseling, you're going to have to retell the whole story, all the nitty gritty. Yeah. Kind of digging up the dead animal, sort of like, you know. Yeah. But with Rapid Eye, we don't have to know exactly. Mm-hmm. We can just release the emotion connected to that.
Okay.
We don't have to relive it. Mm-hmm. Just remove the trauma feeling. Okay. Or the unsafe feeling. Yeah. That came with it.
And is this covered by like insurance, or is it expensive?
Well, it depends on your definition of expensive. Yeah. You know, I don't feel like it's expensive. And I'm willing to work with people. Mm-hmm. You know, I had a girl that really felt like she needed some sessions, and I really needed my windows washed. Yeah. So we did a trade. Yeah. You know, so I'm willing to work with people if I feel like they really have a need. Yeah.
Do you do like a consultation?
Yes. And in fact, I have, you know, you can book like a discovery call with me, and we'll just talk for 30 minutes on the phone to see if it's really something you want to do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you have, I imagine you have a website?
I do. Okay. Uh-huh. It's loranajohnson.com. Okay. So, and my Lorana is Lorana. Okay. So... My name is because I turned out to be a girl.
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's funny. So, when you said that, I started thinking back. Like every person we've had on here, their stories I related to every single one.
One each time. Like, listen, you do. You kind of hear little bits and pieces of how it relates to you or someone close to you. Yeah. Even just having it not affect you personally, but just being present in it and being that extra mirror. You know, that extra.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you said, your dad wanted a boy, and I was the firstborn. I have 4 younger brothers.
Oh, dear.
And in Mexican culture, like, it's very important to have the firstborn be a boy. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of, like, discontent, I guess, between my mom and dad because I was born a girl, and my dad wasn't happy that I was a girl. And, you know, till this day, now we don't have a relationship at all, both my parents, because the way that I was treated all throughout my childhood, because I wasn't male. So
I had an interesting realization. Mm-hmm. So when I did my birth clearing, and we had released all that about being born the wrong sex. Mm-hmm. I went home and was journaling about it. And I just think journaling is so powerful because it pulls your whole body together. You have to see it, and you use your physical body to write it and your mind to think it. So it's a great way to process things. Yeah. So I was journaling about how I felt about it. And I had this amazing aha that it was actually my dad's sperm that shows that I was a girl, right?
Yeah.
Because his sperm that swam the hardest had that X chromosome that made me a girl, right? Yeah. So unconscious level or subconscious level, my father chose for me to be a girl. Mm-hmm. My mom, she was the X chromosome no matter what she did, right?
Right, yeah.
So
I'm just going to say you were not born the wrong sex. It was, your dad was just disappointed by how you were born.
And it's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it is.
It's just purely cultural. Mm-hmm. Now, I think it's kind of interesting. My mother has dementia, and my father is her primary caregiver. And so my sister and I help a lot. Go places with them, kind of keep an eye on Mom. Yeah. And, like they can't stop somewhere and go to the bathroom because who knows where Mom will end up. What I mean? There's got to be another female go in the restroom with her. Yeah. Anyway, and I think he's starting to really appreciate that he had daughters.
Yeah.
Because it's not his sons up there helping out.
Right. Yeah.
And most of his sons live farther away, and we're close, Yeah. Yeah. So we can help.
Yeah.
And so things change.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think it's funny, like my dad, I don't think was ever really close to my brothers at all, but we were close when I was growing up, and now we're not close at all, but I was the one that was closest to him, and probably the one that looked more like him too, in the beginning. Now I have one brother that looks exactly like him, but yeah, I mean, I know they don't say it, but I'm sure he's, out of all my siblings, he's probably the proudest of me. Even though he doesn't say it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, or they're not going to say it.
Yeah, they're probably not going to say it. But, yeah.
But he did reach out to you for a split moment when you went live about your abuser.
Yeah.
And he did contact you for a brief moment, and then...
Yeah. Yeah, not directly. Like, he spoke to my brother and said, I believe her, and I know that... I'm on her side if anything needs to happen, and that was a little bit changing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that men or fathers have this innate feeling that they need to protect their children, and when their children don't end up being protected, I think it really on some deep emotional level really hurts them, and it's hard for them to face it.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they should have protected you from that abuse or...
Yeah. And like we said too, like it has to be a cultural thing, I'm the oldest. I'm the one that had children first. I had 2 daughters first, and then my son. And even after my son was born, my dad said, well, I just can't wait till one of my sons has a son, because he's actually going to carry the name, and it's like, no matter what I do, it's still not good enough.
Darn it.
Yeah, but it's sad that people think that way. They're not open-minded. Yeah. It's like, you should just be grateful that you have a healthy child, no matter what.
Yeah. Grandbaby.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, boy or girl.
Or name.
Yep.
I'm hoping that our world is changing.
I think
that
so.
People are becoming more
open-minded
about things like that.
Yeah.
I agree. And this, what we're doing here, I think helps that. I mean, how many times do we see, on the news, people reporting their abusers now? Yep. Where before it wasn't happening.
Yeah, everything was kept quiet. Yeah. And, don't shame the family, don't say anything, just keep it on the down low, because we don't want anything to come out.
Yeah.
When you guys have mentioned this before, sometimes you really do feel like, well, did I blow this out of proportion? Yeah. Did I misread a situation? Am I exaggerating? But then when you hear it back and you hear this story and then you hear this story and you're like, no. A little bit different, but very similar.
Yeah.
I just had somebody reach out to me. I've known this person for a long time, and all she said was, I don't know what to say. And so I was like, well, I don't know how to feel about that. Well, then she ended up messaging me a private message, and she was just like, if I would have known that you were being hurt for so long, She's like, I would have intervened. She's like, but she's like, you put a smile on your face every single time, and you were the happiest, person around, and your kids were your entire world. I wouldn't have ever guessed that you were being hurt the way that you were being hurt. And she was like, and even to this day, she was like, it still blew my mind that you got a divorce and all these things were happening. And she was like, and the sad part is that not one person from that family told the truth.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's hard. Like, I can't imagine being a parent of somebody that's hurting somebody. I can't imagine any of that feeling. Hearing it, seeing it, everything. Like, because my ex, we lived with his family for years, and they heard everything, and they seen everything, and they... Mm-hmm. I remember when I got my rib pushed out, and I know that it killed her. Like, it killed his mom to see me like that. And she would always say, you need to treat her better, because one day you're not going to have her. Whether it's you hurting her to the point where you're the one that's causing it, or she finally gets the courage and she leaves you. And she was like, it just, this lady was just like, it's crazy. She's like, but I'm proud of you. She's like, but I would have never guessed. But it's because we hide it so well, because we are so ashamed and embarrassed to let people know and see all these bruises. And it's like, I would wear long sleeves in the summertime. Mm-hmm. Maria would wear, turtlenecks. It's like, you have to hide all these things. And people are like, oh, what are you doing? Like, and going to events and only being there for like 10 minutes. And then I have to leave.
No,
and everybody knew, like, you could always tell. You always got that feeling when people were talking to you, or talking like, what's going on? Why is she leaving? Like, and you always get that feeling. And then you get in the car and you're like, just quiet. And it's hard to go back and relive those moments, but at the same time, I'm proud of myself. And I was by myself for a long time, because I was so scared to tell anybody what I was going through.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I was so scared.
Because it makes you wrong. Mm-hmm. You're so afraid that people will say, well, that was stupid that you married him.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. They don't understand unless they go through it.
No.
It's just like, why would you stay there? Mm-hmm. Why would you not leave? They just question you know? Yeah.
But then you see a good side, and then you have another beautiful child or something, and so you just keep trying and trying and trying until you can't try. Yeah, you can't do it anymore.
Well, divorce is a huge decision, because it's not just affecting you.
No, it's affecting
It's
everyone.
affecting your children.
Yeah.
Your spouse, your family, your parents and siblings. It's a big ripple that goes out and affects a lot of people around you, and especially your children.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a huge thing. What's best for my kids? To stay in this relationship, and then there's the thing of you're going to have to financially support yourself.
Right.
You're not going to have that. I mean, I assume the other person's bringing in income,
Right, yeah.
But you're not
But
going to...
that's not always the case. No,
that's not always the case. But I'm just saying, you're thinking, how's this going to work?
Yeah.
Me
Can
alone
I even
with
do it?
children, how am I going to survive?
Right.
Well, yeah, you see all these posts now. Like you say, a lot more people are being more spoken about it, but I keep coming across all these ones that are like, I finally made the decision to leave my significant other after so many years, but he was the breadwinner. I don't have anything. He says everything that's mine is his because he bought it all. Like, where do I start? I see that so much.
Well, and then even in the job field, sometimes in the interview process, when you don't have the experience, sometimes they don't look.
Right.
They won't, if you don't have that background, they go on to the next person.
Why are you 30 and you've never had a job before,
Yeah. And then that feeling.
Your self-worth is,
I didn't have to. And then you have to go into the details of, well, why didn't you have to? And people don't need to know that. So
yeah, you kind of want to leave the
you kind of want to, you kind of do. So
yeah, every job requires 6 months experience, but they're not going to give it to you.
I know.
Well, but what's something that I have learned recently in it is, I think older generations, I feel like we have always thought tenure meant something in a workplace. This new and coming age, that it doesn't matter. It's more so what can you offer, and provide.
Right.
What are you willing to do?
Right.
Essentially. So it's scary. It's scary to get out there and not really necessarily have the experience and everything, but there's plenty of work out there to be done. So
well, I'm really glad you came on the show.
Well,
I'm
thank you.
excited
I was
to
excited
see,
to be here.
what we can get together and what we can offer together. I think that's a great
how we can team up.
Yeah.
A good
collaboration.
I'm involved in some other women's networking groups that I think, we can make some more awareness of this and what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think it's really valuable, and have people on board with you, supporting you in this activity. It's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We've come a long ways. 11 episodes. But
Yeah.
we learn every day.
We do. Together.
Isn't that what life's about? Learning every day.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Well, do you have any questions for us?
Not that I can think of. I really appreciate you letting me be on the show today,
Of
and
course.
I just love read everything on the website, and I'm just so thrilled that all the work that you've done putting this together. It's beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We're excited to see where it goes.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Great possibilities.
Thank you.
We have a lot of things coming up.
Yeah,
So,
we do.
Yeah.
Definitely do.
so
But now we have another one. Now we have another resource
Yes.
that survivors can use that are not quite comfortable talking about it. They just want it to go away.
Yeah. We can work on that.
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice to know that there's different things. Like with Stacy, how she does the
The ketamine and
ketamine
Oh, yeah.
therapy. Yeah. And now this. Like things that I had no idea were available.
yeah.
So it's awesome.
Yeah.
you had mentioned sorry to keep going, but you had mentioned during one of the first episodes you did maybe like breath work or anything like that. Do you do?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So tell what does that kind of entail in there? Like
Breath
as far
work?
as, like how to control emotions. Is that essentially what?
Well, so when you cry, and at the end of your cry you go,
Yeah.
that's actually an emotional release. You are releasing negative energy. So when you take a big breath and just sigh and let that all out, you actually release negative emotion. So breathing is part of any time you release. And that's why things like yoga and other meditations that focus on your breathing are so good, is because it gets you to pull up that negative emotion that's stuck in your body and breathe it out. Let it go. So it can be really powerful. And there's lots of different kinds of breathing.
Well, because I've been hearing more about it lately.
Yeah.
And as far as releasing traumas and
There's some really great, I don't have them on the tip of my tongue, but there's, some great YouTube videos on breathing for, releasing trauma, breathing for anxiety or,
Okay. Yeah.
We'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
panic attacks. Isn't that what happens? Is you almost quit breathing?
Yes.
Yeah.
It feels like somebody's sitting on your chest.
Like you can't even take a deep breath. Yeah.
It's too tight.
Mm-hmm. And I find when I'm anxious or when I'm really busy or nervous, I realize that I'm not really breathing. Do you know?
I realize that all the time.
Oh my gosh!
I realize that I'm clenching. I think even at night, I feel like I must attack that pillow, squeeze the heck out of it, and you don't realize that you're doing it, but then you wake up the next day and you're sore, and you're like, or the dentist tells you, hey, you have a really great bite. That's
because I've been grinding my teeth.
Apparently, there's some energy.
So if we can just take a moment and say, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Just breathe.
Well, it'd be present, I think.
Yeah, it does bring you into the present, for sure.
Yeah.
Because have you ever, been scrolling and all of a sudden you find a video and it's like, are you feeling anxious or whatever emotion,
or it
and
tells
then
you to
it's like,
relax your shoulders and you didn't even realize
that
you were
like yes, or
stretched.
take your tongue off the top of the roof of your mouth, and you're like, oh, I was doing that, you know. It's crazy that's our body reacting to those emotions.
That is true. That's funny that you say that. That's true.
Yeah, there's a great book. It's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. You know, and the point of the book is every emotion that you swallow or just hold in settles into your body somewhere and can cause dis-ease in your body.
Yes.
So I think that's why it's so important to get that out.
Yeah. I like to just read things, you know, random things all the time. And it was like, there's somewhere where you can look up like every single thing that's wrong with you, what type of emotions or what type of trauma you're holding in. Like, if you always suffer from throat issues, it's because you have a hard time speaking, like your emotions, so you don't let it out. And so
who has more thyroid problems, women or men?
Women.
I would think women, for sure.
Yes.
Right? Why? Because they're not speaking their truth, right? They're not like sharing what they really think. Yeah. So I do think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like read, you can even Google it, you know, like what type of emotions are you holding in if your like left knee hurts, you know, if you have issues with your left knee, and it will tell you. And I went through that, I'm like, oh, like there's a couple things like, you know, losing your hair a lot, or some, I don't remember, like if you have shoulder pain all the time, like if you suffer from a certain thing all the time, like it's because of a certain
stored emotion right there.
Yeah.
We're going to have a powwow in here.
With
these videos.
I have several books.
I just think it's so
it's
interesting.
Yeah,
it's very interesting to me to learn that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It can be very valuable. You know, and when you think of, you know, little children that have a stomach ache,
right?
You know, do they really have a stomach ache, or is there some fear,
right?
Fear of, or you know,
yes.
There's a test at school today, so their stomach hurts, or you know, somebody's teasing them on the playground, so they're scared to go out there and be harassed or teased.
Right.
You know, so I think there can be a lot of physical symptoms of emotions that we're feeling.
Yes.
So, being, you know, it's like you said, being in the present, being aware and conscious of, and it's really easy to get going so fast you don't even pay attention to your body, don't you think?
Yeah.
You know, and you cram it with awful stuff that's not good for you because you're just moving so quickly and don't really feel your...
We live in a busy world.
Yeah.
Even when like where I read it, even where you store fat in your body, it has a lot to do with it too. Like if you store it in your stomach or in your arms or your neck, like it has all to do with that. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Our bodies are really smart.
Our bodies are meant to, we do only get this one body, but they are meant to keep us fully functioning. So we really are what we put into them. But also we need to, our body will react in certain situations, and I think a lot of times we try to suppress that because we don't want to feel. We don't want to feel, or we're unsure of what it is that we're actually feeling.
Right.
So, when I was married, and I don't know when this exactly started, but there would be a confrontation, and then my husband would leave, and I would go, you know, I really need to make cookies for the kids.
Because you needed to get out the motions in baking.
Right. But, you know, part of that was I was eating the cookies. It had nothing to do with the kids. But that changed my state, right? Tasting that in my mouth took away some of the angst of what I had just felt with my husband, you know. And so I do think we do things physically to our bodies to kind of separate us from those emotions that we're feeling.
I agree.
So, and I haven't made cookies for months and months.
I
I made some yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, but cookies may not be the trigger they are for me.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. It was wonderful.
We loved having you. We'll have to have you back again. And
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. We can talk about something else.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. It Begins With Us is supporting podcasts for 1614 Revival Foundation.
Please leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever possible. That really helps the show reach more people.
You can follow us on social media. The links are in the show notes. Do not hesitate to reach out. See you next time.